Did you know there's a town in America where it's technically illegal to walk your pet lion down Main Street after midnight without wearing a Hawaiian shirt? Sounds like something out of a wild dream, right? But believe it or not, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the downright bizarre house rules sprinkled across the United States. From towns that ban snowball fights to neighborhoods where you can't mow your lawn on Sundays, America is packed with regulations so strange, you'll wonder who even came up with them in the first place. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the 32 weirdest, wildest, and most head-scratching house rules you'll find in this country. Picture this: you move into a cozy new home, only to discover that your homeowners association has a strict rule against hanging your laundry outside because it's too rustic. Or imagine being fined for having a garden gnome that's deemed too cheerful by the local council. These aren't just quirky anecdotes, they're real rules enforced in real places, and they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about American neighborhoods. Whether it's a law against eating ice cream on Sundays or a ban on parking your pickup truck in your own driveway, these regulations aren't just odd, they're downright fascinating. So why do these rules exist? Some were born out of old traditions, others from overzealous committees, and a few, well, let's just say they might have been dreamed up after someone had won too many cups of coffee. But no matter how absurd they seem, each one tells a story, a glimpse into the quirky, unpredictable side of life in the US of A. And trust us, by the time we're done, you'll never look at homeowner agreements the same way again. Ready to uncover the strangest rules hiding in plain sight? Let's get started. Ever heard of a house rule so unsettling it feels like the setup for a horror movie? In certain older homes and college dorms across America, you'll find one that sends a chill down your spine: no flushing the toilet after midnight. At first glance, it sounds like something out of a campfire ghost story, maybe a cautionary tale about waking some ancient plumbing demon. But the truth behind this rule is both simpler and stranger than any urban legend. Back in the early 20th century, many buildings had plumbing systems that just couldn't handle late-night water pressure spikes. Thin pipes, aging infrastructure, and shared sewage lines meant a midnight flush could echo like a thunderclap through the walls, rattling neighbors awake or even causing leaks. Some say the rule stuck around as a quirky relic, while others swear it's about saving water during off-peak hours. But in college dorms, there's another layer. Imagine 100 sleep-deprived students all deciding to flush at once during finals week. The pipes wouldn't stand a chance, so how do people live with this rule? In some places, it's treated like a gentle suggestion, a nod to the building's history. But in others, breaking it could mean a stern note from the landlord or even a fine. And let's be honest, nobody wants to be that person who accidentally summons a plumbing apocalypse at 2 in the morning. Whether it's fear of ghostly clogs or just respect for cranky old pipes, this rule proves that sometimes the strangest house rules have the most practical roots. Now imagine moving into a house where the rules state you must wear shoes at all times, even while lounging on the couch or padding around the kitchen at 3 in the morning. At first, it might seem like the ultimate power move from a cleanliness-obsessed landlord, but this rule actually has roots that stretch way beyond simple tidy habits. Some homeowners swear it's about hygiene, arguing that bare feet track in dirt and bacteria faster than shoes ever could. Others point to cultural traditions where shoes indoors are seen as unclean or even dangerous, like in places where scorpions or sharp debris could turn a casual stroll to the fridge into an emergency room trip. Then there's the flip side. Architects and designers who insist this rule is about protecting floors from scratches, sweat stains, or the dreaded toe imprint on pristine hardwood. Ever seen someone wince as a guest's heel grinds into their vintage oak floors? You'll understand why some households treat shoelessness like a minor crime. But here's where it gets surreal. Certain condo associations have turned this into law, with fines for residents caught sneaking around in socks. One Florida community even mandated approved indoor footwear in shared hallways, claiming it reduced slip and fall lawsuits. Of course, science has its say too. Studies show shoes can harbor everything from pesticides to fecal bacteria, thanks sidewalks, but going barefoot has its own risks: fungal infections, cold floors, or stepping on that one rogue Lego. So is this rule genius or overkill? Depends who you ask. For every person who sees shoes indoors as a biohazard, there's another who'd rather risk it than lace up just to grab a midnight snack. Either way, it's proof that when it comes to house rules, even the soles of your feet aren't safe from scrutiny. There's an unspoken law in certain households that's as sacred as the Constitution itself: no talking before coffee. This isn't just about preference, it's survival. Walk into one of these homes before dawn, and you'll sense the tension in the air, the quiet so thick you could spread it on toast. Break the rule, and you risk awakening a grumpy beast who's barely human until that first sip of caffeine. It's not rudeness, it's biology. The no-talk rule isn't just for night owls or overworked parents, it's a cultural phenomenon. Some families enforce it with military precision, communicating solely through grunts and exaggerated eye rolls until the coffee maker finishes its ritual. Others take it further, posting actual signs on kitchen cabinets that say things like "words cost extra before 8 a.m." or "first coffee, then consonants." There's even a town in Vermont where the local diner has a no-chatter policy for the first 30 minutes after opening, a nod to the collective morning misery of its residents. But why does this rule exist? Science backs it up. Sleep inertia, that groggy fog after waking, can last up to 2 hours, and caffeine's job is to punch through it like a wrecking ball. Without it, the brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for polite conversation, might as well be offline. Throw in America's obsession with productivity, and you've got a society that treats pre-coffee interactions like trespassing on emotional quicksand. Of course, there's a hierarchy. The rule bends for emergencies, the house is on fire, or essential questions: where's the coffee? But woe to the fool who dares ask about weekend plans before the mug's half empty. Some couples even build it into their relationships, with one partner handling sunrise patrol while the other stays mute until fully caffeinated. And let's not forget the accidental violators, the cheerful morning people who greet the world with a sing-song "good morning," only to be met with a death stare that could curdle milk. At its core, this rule isn't about silence, it's about respect. It's acknowledging that until the caffeine kicks in, the person you love is temporarily possessed by a snarling, half-asleep goblin who just needs 5 minutes and a hot cup of liquid sanity. So next time you're tempted to chat before coffee, remember, in some homes that's not small talk, it's a declaration of war. You'd think something as simple as hanging a toilet paper roll would be beyond debate, but in some homes the direction it faces is treated with the intensity of a constitutional amendment. Picture this: you casually replace the roll with the loose end hanging against the wall, only to walk in later and find it flipped the other way. Congratulations, you've just stumbled into one of America's weirdest domestic battlegrounds, the Great Toilet Paper Orientation War. Turns out there's actual science behind this obsession. Psychological studies suggest that people who prefer the over position where the loose end faces outward are often perceived as more disciplined or organized, while under enthusiasts might be seen as rebellious or free-spirited. One survey even found that couples have ended arguments over this seemingly trivial detail, proof that love may be unconditional, but toilet paper habits are not. And let's not forget the practical arguments. Over makes it easier to tear sheets one-handed, a lifesaver when you're holding a phone or a child, while under allegedly keeps pets or toddlers from unrolling the entire thing like a red carpet for chaos. But here's where it gets bizarre. Certain homeowner associations have codified the over position into their official rules, complete with fines for violations. One luxury condo in New York famously sent residents a diagram titled Bathroom Compliance Standards, with toilet paper direction listed alongside fire safety protocols. Meanwhile, historic homes with antique fixtures sometimes enforce under to preserve delicate wallpaper from accidental swipes. And then there's the passive-aggressive flip when someone changes the role's orientation mid-argument, leaving it as a silent declaration of domestic rebellion. The debate even splits along generational lines. Older households often default to under, a holdover from the early 20th century when wall-mounted dispensers were common, and the under position kept roles looking neat. Younger generations, raised on viral Twitter polls and HGTV makeovers, overwhelmingly champion over for its aesthetic symmetry. And if you think this is just a quirky American fixation, think again. Japan has patented toilet paper holders with sensors that alert homeowners if the rolls hung incorrectly. At its core, this rule isn't about paper, it's about control. In a world where so much feels unpredictable, the direction of your toilet roll might be the one thing you can dictate, even if it sparks a silent war with your roommate. So next time you're in an unfamiliar bathroom, check the roll's position. That tiny detail might tell you more about the household than any welcome mat ever could. Think about the last time you came home after a long day and flopped onto your bed still wearing your jeans only to freeze mid-flop because you suddenly remembered, this house has rules. In certain homes across America, sitting on the bed in outside clothes isn't just frowned upon, it's a full-on felony in the eyes of the household. At first glance, it might seem like overkill, but dig deeper, and you'll find this rule is steeped in a mix of hygiene obsession, cultural tradition, and a downright militant devotion to cleanliness. For some, it's purely about germs. Studies show that the average pair of jeans carries more bacteria than a public toilet seat after just 2 weeks of wear, and that's before you factor in subway seats, restaurant booths, or park benches. To germaphobes, your bed isn't just a place to sleep, it's a sanctuary. Letting outside clothes touch the sheets is like inviting the entire city's microbiome to a slumber party. Hospitals have known this for decades, hence the no street clothes on patient beds policy, but in private homes, it's taken to almost religious levels. Some families even enforce a strip at the door policy, with designated loungewear waiting just inside the bedroom like a hazmat suit for relaxation. Then there's the cultural angle. In many Asian and Middle Eastern households, the bed is treated like a sacred space, separate from the dirt and chaos of the outside world. Shoes come off at the door, sure, but outside clothes, those might as well be radioactive. It's not just about dirt, it's about symbolism. Your bed is where you're most vulnerable, where you recharge. Letting the grime of the world into that space feels like a violation, like tracking mud across an altar. But here's where it gets extreme. Some homeowner associations have turned this personal preference into official policy, with leases that explicitly forbid tenants from letting non-sleep attire touch the mattress. One luxury apartment building in Chicago even installed UV light sanitizers in bedroom entryways, encouraging residents to decontaminate before approaching the bed. And let's not forget the aesthetic purists, those who see rumpled sheets or denim imprints on duvets as a personal affront. Ever met someone who irons their bed sheets? They're likely the same person who'd rather sleep on the floor than let a sweater defile their pillow. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one family member who argues, "But I only wore these pants for 2 hours." Or, "The couch is fine, so why not the bed?" To them, the rule feels arbitrary, but to the enforcers, it's a line in the sand, because when you think about it, your bed is the one place you spend a third of your life. If there's anywhere you should get to be a little irrational about cleanliness, maybe it's there. So next time you're tempted to collapse onto the comforter in your day-old hoodie, ask yourself, are you ready to risk the wrath of the bed police? Ever walked into a living room so pristine it feels like a museum exhibit, only to spot a stern sign that reads, "No red drinks allowed." This isn't just some quirky decor choice. It's a full-blown household defense strategy against one of nature's most unforgiving forces, crimson-colored liquids. From cranberry juice to cherry soda, anything with a hint of red is treated like contraband in these homes, and the reasoning goes far beyond simple stain anxiety. The no red drinks rule is practically a rite of passage in houses with white carpets or cream-colored upholstery. One spill of, say, a grape Kool-Aid could turn a plush sofa into what looks like a crime scene, and no amount of frantic blotting will ever fully erase the evidence. Homeowners who enforce this ban often have war stories, like the time a single drop of Merlot at a book club meeting required a professional cleaner, 3 bottles of hydrogen peroxide, and a prayer. Some even keep photo evidence of past disasters as cautionary tales, like a grim slideshow of what happens when the rule is violated. But it's not just about practicality, there's psychology at play. Red is uniquely stressful because it's both highly pigmented and emotionally charged. Studies show it's the color most likely to trigger a visceral reaction. Think stop signs, alarm lights, and yes, that heart-sinking moment when a glass of punch tips over. The brain registers red spills as emergencies, which is why some hosts react to a rogue strawberry smoothie like it's a 5-alarm fire. Then there's the social hierarchy of beverages. Clear drinks forgivable, a white wine mishap manageable, but red, that's the unforgivable sin. Some households have elaborate mitigation systems like red drink zones, kitchen-only or mandatory coasters with raised edges. Others take it further, offering guests a pre-approved menu of safe beverages, usually anything translucent or pale enough to pass the blot test. One designer in Beverly Hills even coined the term red drink anxiety after installing a white silk couch for a client who then demanded a contract clause forbidding tomato-based cocktails. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one guest who smugly sips their cranberry spritzer, insisting they've never spilled a thing in their life, right until the moment they do. And let's not forget the accidental offenders, like the kid who innocently hands over a popsicle only to watch it drip like a tiny scarlet waterfall. But for those who have lived through the trauma of a ruined rug, the rule isn't about being controlling, it's about self-preservation. Because in the battle between white fabric and red dye, the fabric never wins. So next time you're handed a crystal clear lemonade at a party, don't take it personally, take it as a sign that someone here has seen things they can't unsee. Imagine growing up in a house where dinner doesn't end with dessert. It ends with a mandatory family rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody. For some families, group singing isn't just a holiday tradition. It's a daily ritual as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. These households don't just encourage harmonies, they demand them, turning living rooms into impromptu concert halls where even the tone-deaf must participate. And while it might sound like a scene from a musical, the reasons behind this rule range from heartfelt to downright hilarious. For many, mandatory sing-alongs are about forced bonding. Picture a family of 5 half-heartedly belting out Sweet Caroline while the youngest sulks into their mashed potatoes. Psychologists call this structured togetherness, a way to carve out connection in overscheduled lives. One mom in Ohio swears by their nightly karaoke rule, claiming it's the only time her teenagers stop texting and actually look at each other. Then there's the religious angle, households where hymnals sit beside salt shakers and grace transitions seamlessly into 4-part harmonies. One Louisiana family even credits their a cappella version of Amazing Grace with preventing dinner table arguments, mostly because nobody can fight while hitting a high C. But not all family singers are willing participants. Kids who'd rather eat broccoli than croon "You Are My Sunshine" have been known to stage silent protests, lips syncing dramatically or forgetting lyrics to Dad's favorite Johnny Cash tunes. One Reddit thread even featured a teen who replaced all the lyrics to "We Are Family" with sarcastic commentary about chores until their parents caught on and made it a longer song. And let's not forget the households where the rule exists purely because someone owns a karaoke machine they're determined to justify. What makes this rule truly fascinating is its unintended consequences. Some families report that their forced musical moments accidentally became cherished memories, like the time a thunderstorm knocked out the power, and they ended up singing American Pie by candlelight for an hour. Others admit it backfired spectacularly, like the dad who insisted on Don't Stop Believe in every Friday night until his kids started, coincidentally, having sleepovers. Whether it's a bonding miracle or a parental power trip, one thing's clear: in these homes, carrying a tune isn't just a skill, it's a survival tactic. In homes where the dishwasher sits unused like a stainless steel monument to betrayal, a single rule reigns supreme. If it can't survive a soapy battlefield of scrubbing and scalding water, it doesn't deserve to be clean. This isn't just about dishes, it's a full-blown ideology. For some families, hand washing isn't a chore, it's a moral stance, a ritual passed down like a sacred text. And the reasons behind this machine-free dogma are as layered as the grime on a week-old lasagna pan. Take the environmental purists who view dishwashers as energy-hogging traitors. They'll cite studies showing old-school scrubbing uses less water. If you're the type who fills the sink instead of letting the tap run like a waterfall. Then there's the distrust brigade, convinced no machine can match the satisfaction of running a finger along a plate and feeling zero grease. One grandmother in Maine famously declared her dishwasher a fancy drying rack after finding a single speck of spinach on a clean fork. For her, the appliance wasn't just lazy, it was a liar. But the real drama unfolds in chore wars. Hand-washing households often split into two factions: the soak-first strategists who treat crusty pots like archaeological digs requiring patience, and the scrub-immediately militants who attack stains like their personal insult. Arguments over proper sponge technique have ended more roommate relationships than unpaid rent. And let's not forget the unspoken hierarchy. The one person, usually the rules enforcer, who rewashes every dish just in case, muttering about how no one else knows the meaning of clean. Then there's the nostalgia factor. Some cling to hand washing as a tribute to simpler times, back when families supposedly bonded over suds and shared secrets instead of staring at separate screens. Never mind that those simpler times also included dishpan hands and water so hot it could double as a torture method. The irony: many of these homes still own dishwashers pristine, untouched, like a museum exhibit titled, "The Appliance We Don't Trust." Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one stealth loader who waits until the enforcer goes to bed, then shoves every mug and cereal bowl into the machine with the glee of a hacker bypassing security. But in these homes, the dishwasher isn't just a tool, it's a test of values, because when you hand wash, you're not just cleaning dishes, you're proving you care enough to suffer. And if that means spending 40 minutes wrestling with a cheese-encrusted casserole dish, so be it. After all, as any hand-wash devotee will tell you, anything worth doing is worth doing the hard way. You know that moment when a suspiciously loud noise erupts during movie night, followed by frantic denials and pointing fingers. In some households, that moment doesn't end with laughter, it ends with a fine. Meet the infamous fart tax, a rule so audacious it turns natural bodily functions into a pay-to-play game. Picture a mason jar labeled "guilty gas" on the kitchen counter, where every suspicious puff costs the offender a quarter. Or imagine a whiteboard tracking each family member's offenses with the precision of a courtroom stenographer. This isn't just about humor, it's about justice. The fart tax thrives on creative punishment. One family in Oregon charges a sliding scale silent but deadly infractions cost 50 cents, while window rattling blasts require a $2 donation to the Family Vacation Fund. Another household issues apology coupons, where the offender must perform a chore of the victim's choice. And then there's the ultimate humiliation, the blame jar, where suspects must drop $1 unless someone else confesses within 30 seconds, turning every meal into a high-stakes game of Clue. But beneath the giggles lies a surprising lesson in accountability. Families who enforce this rule swear it teaches kids and grown-ups to be considerate of shared spaces. It's hard to argue when you've watched a teenager sheepishly empty their piggy bank after clearing the room during Scrabble night. And let's be honest, there's something poetic about a system that turns unavoidable biology into a teachable moment. Just try to keep a straight face when your dad grumbles about inflation after doubling the tax for repeat offenders. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one uncle who treats the jar like a tip bucket, tossing in a $5 bill preemptively. Or the sly dog owner who blames the family pet with a theatrical gasp until the dog gets its own jar. But whether it's about bonding or benign revenge, the fart tax proves one thing. In the battle against awkwardness, sometimes the best defense is a good offense and a well-stocked change jar. Some houses treat open windows like unlocked prison doors, strictly forbidden, no exceptions. This isn't just about keeping the AC in. It's a lifestyle choice wrapped in layers of paranoia, practicality, and sometimes pure superstition. Walk into one of these sealed-off homes and the air feels heavier, like you've entered a controlled laboratory where even a cracked window could trigger an alarm. But behind this rule lies a fascinating mix of motives, from obsessive climate control to fears that go bump in the night. Take the HVAC fanatics first. For them, opened windows aren't just inefficient, they're an act of war against the thermostat. These are the households where summer heat waves hit 90 degrees outside, but inside, it's a crisp 68 thanks to a hyperactive air conditioner. One Florida family famously taped their windows shut after calculating that a single inch of open space cost them $37 in wasted energy per month. Then there's the allergy mafia, where pollen is public enemy number one. Their homes are fortresses against nature, armed with HEPA filters and a zero-tolerance policy for fresh air. One mom in Minnesota even laminated a diagram of mold spores to justify her "windows stay closed forever" decree, complete with a red circle and slash over a cartoon breeze. But the real intrigue starts when the rule veers into the supernatural. Certain regions, especially older homes in the South or rural New England, treat open windows as an invitation for things far worse than dust. Stories abound of superstitious homeowners who swear that night air carries spirits, or that a midnight draft is how bad energy slips inside. One Louisiana bayou cottage had a rule dating back to the 1920s. No windows open after dark unless you wanted to let the haint settle in. Even today, descendants of that family refuse to crack a pane, claiming their grandmother once saw a shadow figure drift in like smoke when someone forgot the rule. Then there's the noise brigade urbanites who have declared war on sirens, barking dogs, and late-night car stereos. Their windows might as well be welded shut, sealed with soundproof curtains, and a resentment for anyone who suggests a little background noise never hurt anybody. One New York apartment dweller installed a decibel meter by the living room window, flashing red if street noise breached what he called the serenity threshold. And let's not forget the security obsessives, for whom an open window is a flashing neon sign reading "Rob me." Their homes often feature window sensors more sensitive than a bank vault, ready to blare an alarm if so much as a moth brushes the glass. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one family member who sneaks a window open just an inch, savoring the forbidden thrill of real air until someone storms in yelling about the electric bill or that weird smell from outside. And ironically, some of these sealed-up homes end up stuffier than the outdoors they're trying to avoid, creating a paradox where the air is pure but tastes like recycled plastic. Whether it's a battle against nature, ghosts, or noise pollution, this rule proves one thing. For some people, control doesn't stop at the front door, it locks the windows too. For some pet owners, the phrase "naked dog" is an emergency, not a description. Welcome to homes where the family golden retriever has a bigger wardrobe than a department store mannequin, and the cat's evening attire includes a miniature tuxedo. This isn't just about the occasional holiday sweater. It's a full-blown lifestyle where pets must wear outfits indoors like tiny, furry fashion models. The reasons range from hilarious to heartfelt, with a side of viral internet fame. Take the practical enthusiasts first. These households swear by pet clothing as problem-solving gear, like the Boston Terrier who wears socks to stop hardwood floor slippage, or the hairless cat with a rotating collection of thermal pajamas. One Minnesota family even stitches custom raincoats for their dachshund because wipe downs after potty breaks just weren't cutting it. Then there's the allergy brigade, dressing pets in onesies to trap dander before it floats onto furniture. A designer in Los Angeles outfits her Persian cat in silk tunics, claiming it's the only way to keep cream-colored couches hair-free. But the real spectacle starts when outfits become social media gold. Families who document their dressed-up pets often stumble into unexpected fame, like the pug in Chicago whose daily, business casual looks at corporate pug official landed him a dog food sponsorship. Or the Maine Coon cat whose elaborate Victorian gowns, hand-sewn by her retired librarian owner, went viral as #regal Miss Fluff. These accounts don't just showcase costumes, they build entire personalities. One French bulldog's Pajama Night series, where he reads bedtime stories in flannel, has fans sending custom sleepwear from as far as Japan. Of course, not all pets are willing participants. The internet is full of cats freezing mid-stride like offended royalty when a tutu is introduced, or dogs giving the side eye to holiday antlers. Some animals rebel strategically. A Shih Tzu in Texas mastered zipper escapes, leaving a trail of abandoned sweaters like a furry Houdini. Others employ guilt tactics, collapsing dramatically at the sight of a sequined vest until their humans relent. Then there's the psychological angle. Animal behaviorists debate whether clothing stresses pets or comforts them. Some anxious dogs visibly relax in thunder shirts. But for the humans, the benefits are clear: laughter, creativity, and sometimes a lifeline. One widow in Arizona credits dressing her chihuahua in outfits matching her late husband's shirts with keeping grief at bay. Another family uses their Labrador's ever-changing costumes to teach their kids about colors and textures, turning daily wardrobe struggles into homeschool lessons. Whether it's haute couture or homemade Halloween get-ups, this rule proves one thing. In these homes, fashion isn't just for humans. It's a language of love, a splash of joy, and occasionally, the only reason strangers stop scrolling long enough to hit follow. Just don't tell the cat he's technically an influencer now. He's got a reputation to maintain. Ever tried dodging a family member in a narrow hallway only to get scolded for violating traffic flow? Welcome to households where hallways aren't just passages, they're regulated like airport runways, complete with unspoken speed limits and strict directional rules. The no walking on the left policy might sound like overkill, but for these families, it's the glue holding domestic harmony together. And the origins of this rule are as varied as the homes that enforce it. For some, it's a holdover from childhood spent in schools with keep right hallway policies, those endless lines of kids shuffling single file between classes. Transplant that into a home with multiple siblings and suddenly hallway collisions drop by 80%. There's science behind it too. Studies on pedestrian traffic flow show designated walking sides reduce bottlenecks by eliminating the human hesitation loop, that awkward dance where two people keep sidestepping the same direction. One Utah family even painted faint arrows on their hardwood floors after their twins kept body checking each other like mini hockey players. Then there's the military precision angle. Homes with active duty or veteran family members often default to structured movement. Left side for exiting, right for entering, no exceptions. One Marine turned dad in Texas turned his hallway into a training zone, complete with timed drills where kids earned extra screen time for flawless navigation. His motto, discipline starts where the walls narrow, and it's not just efficiency, for some it's safety. Imagine a household where grandma's antique vase collection lines the left wall like a museum exhibit. One errant elbow during a sprint to the bathroom could mean financial ruin. But here's where it gets surreal. Some households escalate the rule to Orwellian levels with penalties for infractions. A Chicago family's hallway violation jar fines offenders $1 per misstep, funding a yearly perfect navigation pizza party. Another home features a hallway honor system whiteboard where offenders must confess their crimes in writing. And then there's the passive-aggressive approach, like the mom who started narrating her kids' movements like an air traffic controller until they fell in line. Delta 29er, you are deviating from assigned vector. Correct immediately or lose snack privileges. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one free spirit who insists on hallway sovereignty, weaving unpredictably like a pinball just to prove a point. Or the contrarian teen who walks backward on the wrong side while maintaining aggressive eye contact. But for those who thrive under the system, the payoff is real. No more mid-hallway standoffs, no more backpack collisions, just smooth, predictable flow, like a well-oiled machine, or at the very least, a household that's figured out how to move from point A to point B without declaring civil war. There's something unsettling about a mirror left uncovered in the dark, an unspoken fear that if you glance at it just wrong, you might not see your own reflection staring back. This isn't just the stuff of horror movies. In certain homes, covering mirrors at night is as routine as locking the front door. The reasons span centuries of folklore, grief rituals, and a primal fear that glass can be more than just a surface. Start with the supernatural. Vampire myths from Eastern Europe warned that mirrors could trap souls or reveal creatures hiding in plain sight. Legends that crept into American Gothic traditions. Some families still swear by the rule, especially in older homes where antique mirrors hang like silent witnesses. One woman in Louisiana described her grandmother's nightly ritual of draping hallway mirrors with black cloth, insisting it kept wandering spirits from using them as doorways. Others cite the Bloody Mary legend, where an uncovered mirror becomes a portal for something or someone. Even non-believers admit the unease of walking past a dark mirror and catching a flicker of movement that shouldn't be there. Then there's the weight of grief. In Jewish Shiva customs, mirrors are covered to prevent mourners from fixating on vanity during loss, a practice some families adopt long after the mourning period ends. One widower in Maine kept his bedroom mirror veiled for years, explaining that seeing his own exhausted reflection made the loneliness unbearable. Similarly, Victorian-era households sometimes shrouded mirrors after death, fearing they'd trap the deceased spirit mid-transition. Today, descendants of those families might not remember the origin, but the habit remains, passed down like an heirloom no one questions. But not all reasons are grim. For some, it's about mental peace. Sleep experts point out that mirrors can disrupt rest by reflecting light or creating subtle movement in peripheral vision. One insomnia sufferer in Colorado swears her uncovered mirror made her bedroom feel crowded, as if her reflection stayed awake while she slept. And let's not forget the practical parents who cover nursery mirrors to prevent midnight freak-outs when babies spot their own movements in the dark. Of course, skeptics scoff. They'll say it's just glass, that covering mirrors is as logical as fearing shadows. But in homes where this rule thrives, logic takes a backseat to something deeper, the human instinct to control what we don't understand. Whether it's avoiding bad luck, honoring tradition, or silencing that tiny voice that whispers what if, covering a mirror isn't just habit, it's a ritual of reassurance. Because sometimes the scariest thing in the dark isn't the unknown, it's your own face staring back when you least expect it. The sound of someone chewing can be background noise to most, but in certain homes it's an unpardonable crime. Meet the no breathing sounds rule, where even the slightest sniffle or lip smack at dinner gets you the kind of glare usually reserved for people who talk in theaters. This isn't about manners, it's about an almost surgical control over the auditory environment, turning mealtime into a library-level silence zone. And the reasons behind it range from neurological conditions to pure, unyielding dominance. For some families, this rule stems from misophonia, a real condition where certain sounds trigger intense rage or anxiety. Imagine a parent who physically shudders at the sound of slurping, or a kid who has to leave the room if someone crunches chips too loudly. Their brains treat these noises like fingernails on a chalkboard cranked up to 11. One woman in Seattle described her family's silent spoon policy, where utensils must glide soundlessly against bowls to prevent trigger avalanches. Another household banned all crunchy foods after 6 p.m., relegating potato chips to the garage like contraband. But then there are the control enthusiasts, the types who treat dinner like a courtroom proceeding. Their rules aren't about sensitivity, they're about power. These are the homes where children learn to chew with their mouths closed, not out of politeness, but because dad's fork will freeze midair if someone dares to breathe audibly. One Reddit thread exposed a mom who made her teens take chewing tests before passing them the salt, and a college roommate agreement included a clause about nasal exhale volume during shared meals. The most extreme cases feature analog decibel meters at the table, with fines for anyone exceeding the acceptable gustatory noise threshold. Of course, science has its say. Research shows that eating sounds trigger primal disgust in humans, a leftover instinct from when sloppy chewing might have signaled disease. Modern misophonia sufferers aren't being dramatic. Their brain scans literally light up differently when hearing trigger noises. Some therapists even recommend sound diets, where families agree to mute specific noises during meals to accommodate sensitive members. Yet the rule's unintended consequences can be just as fascinating. Kids from these households often grow up hyper-aware of their own noises, developing quirks like holding their breath between bites or opting for soups to avoid crunch crimes. Others rebel spectacularly, like the teen who staged a noisy food protest by eating an entire bag of popcorn during a vow of silence dinner. And let's not forget the couples who realize too late that their partner's spaghetti slurping is a deal-breaker, leading to separate meal times or, in one infamous case, a dining room divided by a soundproof curtain. At its core, this rule isn't about food, it's about territory. Whether it's a neurological necessity or a bid for control, declaring a meal a noise-free zone is really drawing a line in the sand, or in this case, the mashed potatoes. Because in these homes, peace isn't just preferred, it's enforced, one deliberately silent chew at a time. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. sharp, the Johnson family gathers in their living room not for prayer, but for what they call truth time. One by one, each member must confess something they've done wrong that week, from neglected chores to secret snack binges. No sin is too small, no omission too trivial. It might sound like a scene from a reality show intervention, but for this household, mandatory weekly confession sessions are less about penance and more about keeping the peace. And they are far from alone across America. Secular families are borrowing from religious traditions to create rituals of radical honesty, with results ranging from heartwarming to downright explosive. The structure varies wildly. Some families keep it lighthearted, passing around a guilt jar where confessions are scribbled anonymously until someone admits to eating the last Pop-Tart and the whole room erupts in laughter. Others treat it like courtroom proceedings, complete with a rotating judge, usually a parent who doles out symbolic punishments, like the Wisconsin dad who makes his kids repent for forgotten homework by reciting fun facts about responsibility. One Minnesota family even turned theirs into a game show hybrid called Come Clean or Consequences, where confessors spin a wheel to determine their fate. Extra chores, apology letters, or if they're lucky, a get-out-of-jail-free card. But the real magic happens when these sessions uncover deeper truths. A California mom credits their weekly ritual with exposing her teen's bullying struggles, something he'd never have shared unprompted. Another family discovered their missing TV remote had been buried in the backyard by their dog. Owning up to it saved them from replacing the whole entertainment system. Therapists note that structured confession can mirror therapeutic disclosure, giving kids a safe framework to admit mistakes without fear of disproportionate rage. As one psychologist puts it, when honesty has a time and place, lying loses its appeal. Not all outcomes are rosy, though. The same forum that praises confession sessions also harbors horror stories like the dad who weaponized them to interrogate his kids about mom's spending habits, or the sibling duo whose "I stole your nail polish" admission escalated into a month-long Cold War. Boundaries matter. A healthy confession rule focuses on personal accountability, not forced exposure. The most effective families pair honesty with humor or follow-up acts of repair, like the Oregon clan who bake apology cookies for whoever they wronged. What makes this rule stick isn't the drama, it's the consistency. Kids raised with weekly truth-telling often carry it into adulthood, turning family practice into lifelong communication skills. Ever met someone who casually says, "Hey, I need to confess I messed up the dishwasher"? Chances are they come from a home where mistakes weren't shamed, just scheduled. And in a world full of filtered realities, that kind of raw honesty isn't just strange, it's revolutionary. You might think avoiding eye contact is something reserved for awkward elevator rides or tense job interviews, but in certain households it's a non-negotiable law when it comes to the family cat. The no eye contact rule sounds like a joke until you witness the fallout of someone breaking it. A sudden hiss, a dramatic tail puff, or worse, a stealth attack from the shadows. What seems like whimsical feline tyranny actually has roots in animal behavior science, interspecies power struggles, and a surprising number of people who have learned the hard way that staring down a cat is like challenging a tiny, furry samurai. In the wild, prolonged eye contact is a threat, a challenge for dominance. Domestic cats may have traded jungles for couch forts, but that primal instinct remains. Some pet behaviorists suggest avoiding direct stares to prevent triggering a cat's fight or flight response. One study even found that slow blinking at cats, aka kitty kisses, makes them more likely to approach, while unbroken eye contact sends them scrambling under the bed. Families who enforce this rule often have battle scars to prove it. A woman in Vermont described how her rescue cat would yowl and knock over lamps if anyone held his gaze too long, while a Portland family's tabby would retaliate with gifts of chewed-up socks placed ominously on the offender's pillow. But the rule isn't just about avoiding chaos, it's about respect. For some, it's a quirky bonding ritual. Imagine a dad who solemnly tells guests, "Don't look, mister." Whiskers in the eyes, he's negotiating world domination. Or a kid who whispers, "He'll like you better if you pretend you didn't see him." Others take it to extremes, like the Colorado couple who hung "Avoid eye contact" signs beneath their cat's portrait in the entryway, or the New York City apartment that designated safe zones where the cat couldn't see you looking. Spoiler, there were no safe zones. Then there's the power dynamic. Cats are masters of psychological warfare, and households with this rule often revolve around an unspoken understanding: the cat is the boss. Break eye contact and you acknowledge their authority. One Seattle man joked that his family's Maine Coon had trained them so well, they'd avert their eyes during mealtime like medieval servants. Another family staged stare-downs as a game until the cat started winning by default because everyone cracked under the pressure of those unblinking green eyes. Of course, rebels exist. There's always that one guest who insists it's just a cat, right before the cat demonstrates precisely why it's not. And let's not forget the cats who exploit the rule, like the sly Persian who'd sit just outside your peripheral vision, waiting for you to slip up so she could demand treaty payments in the form of extra treats. Whether it's science, superstition, or surrender to a tiny dictator, this rule proves one thing: In the battle for household dominance, sometimes the smartest move is to just look away. Imagine living in a world where the word broccoli is treated like a curse, where salads are contraband and dinner plates gleam with nothing but carbs and protein. Welcome to homes with the ultimate rebellion against nutrition, the no vegetables policy. This isn't just about picky eaters. It's a full-scale culinary mutiny where greens are banned like a forbidden food group. Whether it's a toddler's tyrannical food preferences or an adult's defiant stand against societal health norms, these households turn dinner time into a veggie-free zone. Some families adopt this rule as a survival tactic. Take the parents of a so-called super taster child, kids with heightened sensitivity to bitter flavors who genuinely perceive vegetables as torture. One mom in Texas described her son's reaction to spinach as a war crime, leading to a household truce where veggies were exiled in favor of vitamin-fortified smoothies. Then there's the anti-establishment crowd, like the dad in Oregon who proudly declared vegetables a scam by Big Salad and replaced them with protein shakes and beef jerky, much to his pediatrician's horror. These aren't just dietary choices, they're acts of defiance against the food pyramid itself. But the most intriguing cases are the rebel parents who grew up force-fed Brussels sprouts and vowed never to repeat the cycle. One couple in Michigan turned their no-veg rule into a generational flex, framing it as liberation from their own childhood food trauma, their pantry. A shrine to chicken nuggets and mac and cheese with nary a celery stalk in sight. Nutritionists might cringe, but these families argue their kids get vitamins through stealth tactics, fruit gummies with hidden nutrients, or pizza sauce counted as a vegetable serving thanks to its tomato base. Of course, the rule has its unexpected consequences. One family's 5-year-old reportedly burst into tears at a friend's house when served carrot sticks. "I thought you loved me." Another household's Thanksgiving went viral when Grandma smuggled pureed cauliflower into the mashed potatoes, sparking a dinner table scandal dubbed Creamgate. And let's not forget the teenagers who discover vegetables in college and text home accusatorially. "Why did you lie about asparagus? It's amazing." Whether it's a short-term phase or a lifelong creed, the no vegetables policy proves one thing. In the battle over healthy eating, some families would rather raise a white flag than a salad fork. And honestly, after years of dinnertime standoffs, maybe peace tastes better than kale anyway. In homes where staircases double as speed traps, you'll find one rule enforced with near religious fervor: no skipping steps. This isn't just cautious parenting, it's a full-blown anti-gravity campaign where bounding upstairs 2 at a time gets you the kind of scolding usually reserved for running with scissors. What began as reasonable safety advice has morphed into household law, complete with dramatic reenactments of what could happen, and teens rolling their eyes so hard it's a miracle they don't tumble backward anyway. The origins of this rule often trace back to a single defining moment: a scraped knee from a childhood fall, or worse, an aunt's friend's cousin who supposedly broke an arm doing stair acrobatics. One mom in Ohio turned her living room into a cautionary tale museum after her toddler tripped on the 3rd step, displaying the offending shoe in a shadow box labeled "Lesson Learned." Another family films annual stair safety seminars, starring a garden gnome dramatizing various stair-related disasters complete with sound effects. The message is clear: in these homes, stairs aren't just steps, they're legal liability zones. But for teenagers, this rule feels like slow-motion torture. Picture a 6-foot-tall basketball player forced to ascend like a toddler, muttering about how his legs are literally longer than the staircase. Some rebel through passive resistance, taking each step with exaggerated, glacier-like precision to highlight the absurdity. Others develop covert techniques like the classic pause mid-flight, fake out where they appear compliant until parents turn away, then vault the remaining steps in one bound. The true anarchists, those who install makeshift slides on the banisters as silent protests against the tyranny of single-step climbing. Ironically, the rule often backfires. Safety experts note that slower stair navigation can actually increase accidents by disrupting natural rhythm. Our brains are wired for fluid motion, not robotic one-step commands. One ergonomic study even found that alternating steps engages more muscle groups, burning extra calories, a fact teens weaponize with, "But mom, it's cardio." Yet for parents, logic takes a backseat to that visceral panic when hearing rapid footfalls overhead. The result, a generational standoff where one side sees stairs as a necessary evil and the other views them as a personal challenge course. The most extreme enforcers deploy surveillance tactics, motion sensors that beep when steps are skipped, or draw charts with stair-compliant stars. One New Jersey family's Alexa routinely interrupts stair sprints with automated warnings. Unauthorized vertical velocity detected. Meanwhile, the kids adapt. There's an entire subculture of teens who can identify which steps creak for stealth maneuvers, turning staircases into an espionage training ground. By the time they move out, they're not just adults, they're ninjas. At its core, this rule isn't about stairs. It's about control in a world where kids grow faster than parents can childproof. Every single step ascent is a tiny rebellion against time itself, a parent's desperate attempt to keep their child's feet metaphorically and literally on solid ground. Even if that ground is just one very carefully taken step at a time. Imagine being scolded not for swearing but for using the word unnecessary. In some households, vocabulary isn't just about communication. It's a minefield where anything over 3 syllables might as well be a felony. The no big words rule sounds like a joke until you witness a teenager getting docked allowance for describing her history essay as exceptionally laborious instead of just hard. What starts as a playful jab at pretension often evolves into a linguistic battleground where Shakespeare would have failed miserably. Take The Simpsons, no, not the yellow cartoon family, but the real-life clan in Nebraska who turned vocabulary policing into an art form. Their dinner table operates like a game show where using words like discombobulated triggers a literal buzzer sound from Dad's phone, followed by mandatory, say it simpler, penalties. Their reasoning, if you can't explain it to a golden retriever, it's too complicated. Then there's the Thompson family's word jar, where each syllable over 3 costs a quarter, funding a yearly, plain English pizza party. Their youngest once tried to loophole the system by declaring anti-disestablishmentarianism a proper noun until mom countered that, nope, it's a quarter per syllable, kid. But beneath the humor lies a surprising philosophy. Some families adopt this rule to combat what they call thesaurus syndrome, kids or adults using $10 words to mask half-baked ideas. One teacher turned dad enforces it to prepare his kids for real-world communication, arguing that no one hires you because you said utilize instead of use. Others see it as a rebellion against elitism, like the Kentucky mechanic who proudly claims his household talks like normal people, not college brochures. Ironically, his no fancy words decree includes the word decree, which, as his kids love to point out, is 2 syllables too many. Of course, enforcement gets creative. There's the grandma who pretends to snore when grandkids lapse into SAT vocab, or the couple who translate overcomplicated apologies into just say sorry like you mean it. The unintended consequences. Kids from these homes often develop a razor-sharp ability to simplify complex ideas, handy for everything from job interviews to calming toddler meltdowns. We say mad, not exasperated, remember. Others rebel by whispering jargon into the dog's ear like it's a linguistic speakeasy. Whether it's a stand against snobbery or just a family's inside joke, this rule proves one thing: sometimes the most powerful words are the shortest ones. And if that's not convincing enough, well, as The Simpsons would say, talk plainer or no dessert. Sunday mornings in the Carter household don't begin with pancakes or cartoons. They start with a full-blown Shakespearean audition. That's because this family has one golden rule. From sunrise to sunset, every word spoken must be delivered in a fake British accent. Not just any accent, mind you. We're talking full-on tea-sipping, pip-pip cheerio theatrics, complete with exaggerated pauses for dramatic effect. At first glance, it sounds like a quirky improv exercise, but dig deeper, and you'll find a tradition blending fandom, creativity, and a dash of harmless parental madness. For some families, the fake accent rule is a love letter to their favorite shows, Doctor Who devotees morphing their kitchen into a TARDIS, or Bridgerton superfans addressing each other as "my lord" and "my lady" while passing the cereal. One dad in Oregon credits his Sunday accent obsession to Monty Python, admitting he can't say "spam" without launching into a full John Cleese impression. Others use it as a stealth learning tool. Kids who grumble about history lessons suddenly perk up when discussing the Revolutionary War in the voice of King George III. But the real magic happens when the rule becomes a confidence booster. Shy kids who mumble in class transform into booming thespians at home, ordering "more toast, if you please," like they're auditioning for Downton Abbey. Stilted breakfast convos turn into lively banter as families lean into the bit teenagers who'd normally answer "fine" to "how was your day?" suddenly soliloquies about gym class in iambic pentameter. Therapists even note the psychological benefits. Forcing brains to operate outside habitual speech patterns can spark creativity and reduce social anxiety. Of course, not all attempts hit the mark. There's the dad whose Cockney accent veers into pirate territory, "take out the trash, matey," or the toddler who proudly declares her waffles bloody brilliant to grandma's horror. And let's not forget the neighbors who have overheard backyard arguments conducted in posh RP. One simply does not leave the lawn clippings in the bin overnight. By sunset, the accents usually slip, devolving into giggles or hybrid dialects. "Doth thou want Taco Bell, milady?" But for these families, the rule isn't about perfection, it's about play. In a world where screens dominate and conversations dwindle, sometimes the silliest traditions become the glue. And if that means discussing homework in the voice of Hermione Granger, well, 10 points to Gryffindor. In the dead of winter or the swelter of summer, one household war rages hotter than any season: the battle for the thermostat. This isn't just about comfort, it's a dictatorship where a single ruler declares, "no touching the thermostat ever." The person who enforces this rule isn't just picky about temperature, they're the self-appointed gatekeeper of climate control, treating the thermostat like a nuclear launch code. And woe to the rebel who dares adjust it by even 1 degree without express permission. Take the classic scenario: dad wakes up before dawn, cranks the heat to 75, and leaves for work, locking the thermostat behind a plastic shield like it's the crown jewels. Meanwhile, the family swelters, peeling off layers and fanning themselves with cereal boxes. Or picture the reverse: a mom who insists on keeping the air conditioning at a brisk 68 degrees year-round, turning the living room into a walk-in freezer while her kids huddle under blankets like Arctic explorers. The rationale varies. Some cite energy bills, others claim optimal efficiency, but the result is the same: a household divided between shivering and sweating, with the thermostat as the ultimate bargaining chip. Then there's the science, or lack thereof, behind these decrees. Studies show that ideal temperatures vary wildly by individual, with metabolism, age, and even gender playing a role. Women, for instance, often prefer warmer rooms than men, thanks to differences in circulation. Yet in these homes, personal preference trumps biology. One man in Michigan boasted about his thermostat treaty, a laminated contract requiring family members to submit temperature change requests in writing at least 24 hours in advance. Another family's Alexa routinely scolds. Thermostat adjustments require voice verification from the primary account holder, aka Mom. The real tension erupts when guests enter the fray. Imagine visiting your in-laws only to find the thermostat bolted shut behind a framed sign reading, "We keep it at 62, bring a jacket or bring a lawyer." Or the college roommate who installs a password-protected smart thermostat, then texts you passive-aggressive graphs of your unauthorized adjustments. The most extreme cases involve actual sabotage, like the teen who figured out how to override the lock by sticking a gum wrapper in the battery slot, only to trigger a full family interrogation when the temperature mysteriously dropped overnight. But here's the irony: many of these thermostats are relics of outdated thinking. Modern systems adapt to occupancy and weather, yet the rule persists out of sheer tradition or stubbornness. Some families even wear their temperature tyranny like a badge of honor. One Minnesota couple proudly refers to their icy bedroom as the meat locker, while a Florida dad brags about his kids' polar bear training under ceiling fans set to hurricane mode. At its core, this rule isn't about degrees, it's about power. The thermostat becomes a physical manifestation of who calls the shots, literally. Whether it's a genuine belief in the perfect temperature or just a lifelong habit, one thing's clear: in these homes, comfort is a privilege, not a right. And if you want to change the setting, better have a notarized petition and a really good sweater. Dessert before dinner sounds like a kid's dream until it's a non-negotiable household law. Picture this: you sit down to eat, and before you even glance at the salad, a slice of chocolate cake lands on your plate with a thud. No, it's not a special treat, it's the first course. Welcome to homes where meals aren't just served backward, they're a full-scale rebellion against culinary tradition. This isn't about indulgence, it's a deliberate subversion of the food pyramid, where ice cream sundaes are appetizers and broccoli is the grand finale. Some families adopt this rule as a health experiment. The theory: eating sweets first stabilizes blood sugar by satisfying cravings early, preventing post-meal binges. One nutritionist mom in California swears her family's reversed meals cured their dessert obsession. After demolishing a brownie upfront, they're allegedly too full to crave seconds. Others cite psychological benefits. Knowing dessert is guaranteed removes the scarcity panic that leads to overeating. One dad in Vermont even published a blog titled "Why We Eat Pie Before Peas," claiming his kids now voluntarily finish vegetables because they're no longer the obstacle to sugar. Then there's the anarchist angle. For these households, flipping mealtime order is pure defiance, a middle finger to diet culture and its rigid rules. Imagine a teenager smugly telling her friends, "My parents let me eat cake first just to spite our gym teacher." Or the couple who turned their backward dinners into a political statement, hosting upside-down potlucks where guests bring desserts to start and casseroles to finish. Their motto: life's too short for saving room. Even restaurants have taken notice. A diner in Oregon now offers a reverse special after a local family's viral TikTok series showcased their inverted meals. But the rule isn't without chaos. Imagine the horror of a visiting grandparent watching a child lick frosting off a cupcake before touching their chicken. Or the logistical nightmares: lasagna congeals while everyone nibbles cookies, and hot soup goes cold waiting for its turn after the cheesecake. One family's Thanksgiving went down in legend when the turkey was served last stone cold, after an hour of pumpkin pie and cranberry jello. "It was like eating leftovers before the meal even happened," groaned their uncle. Yet for all its quirks, the reverse meal philosophy reveals a deeper truth: routines are made to be broken. Whether it's a nutritional gamble, a generational revolt, or just a really good excuse to eat ice cream for dinner, this rule turns the table on convention, literally. And honestly, after a lifetime of being told to eat your vegetables first, there's something deliciously rebellious about digging into a donut before anyone can say no. There's a special kind of torment in waking up to sunshine and birdsong, only to remember you live in a household where laughter before noon is practically a misdemeanor. That no laughing before noon rule isn't just grumpy, it's a full-blown moratorium on joy, enforced with the severity of a library whisper policy. For some families, it's about preserving the fragile peace of sleep-deprived parents. For others, it's a bizarre badge of honor, proof they are too serious for silliness before lunch. Either way, mornings in these homes feel less like a new day and more like a vow of silence with cereal. Take the Henderson family of Maine, where the words "good morning" are delivered with the enthusiasm of a tax audit. Their kitchen operates like a monastery until the clock strikes 12, with even suppressed giggles earning a withering glare. Dad claims it's about respecting the sanctity of sunrise, while Mom argues that pre-noon laughter disrupts the digestive process, a theory she invented after reading a dubious wellness blog. Their kids, meanwhile, communicate in exaggerated sighs and eye rolls, passing notes like wartime spies to avoid triggering the no-joy ordinance. One rebellious teen took to wearing a t-shirt that read, "I'm laughing internally," which was promptly confiscated and burned in the fireplace for passive-aggressive insubordination. Then there's the self-proclaimed intellectual elite angle. Some households treat morning cheer like a sign of weak character, as if cracking a smile before coffee reveals a lack of depth. Picture a professor-type dad sipping black tea while lecturing his kids on the virtues of solemn reflection, right as the dog farts loudly, testing everyone's resolve. These families often have elaborate hierarchies of acceptable noise. Humming is tolerated but risky, chuckling is a misdemeanor, and full belly laughs before noon are grounds for revoked Wi-Fi privileges. One Chicago family's morning decibel chart went viral after their youngest son staged a silent protest by miming his entire breakfast order like a sad clown. Of course, science begs to differ. Studies show laughter reduces stress hormones and boosts endorphins, exactly what groggy brains need to shake off sleep inertia. Therapists even prescribe forced laughter exercises for anxiety sufferers, proving that faking joy can sometimes summon the real thing. Yet in these homes, biology takes a backseat to tradition. The rule persists not because it works, but because it's always been there like a weird heirloom no one has the heart to throw out. The unintended consequences are where things get fascinating. Kids raised in no-laugh zones often develop hyper-awareness of vocal tones, tiptoeing around happiness like it's a landmine. Some rebel by inventing covert joy, snickering into pillows or staging underground giggle clubs during bathroom breaks. Others weaponize the rule, like the teen who greeted his parents each morning with funereal dirges until they caved and amended the policy to no loud laughter before 10. At its core, this rule isn't about noise, it's about control. Whether it's a sleep-deprived parent's survival tactic or a household's oddball identity, banning morning laughter is really about dictating the emotional weather. And sure, maybe the world could use a little more gravity before lunchtime, but when even the dog side eyes you for being too solemn, it might be time to ask, what's so threatening about a sunrise chuckle? Some homes don't just greet each other, they celebrate every entrance like a winning touchdown. Picture this, you step into the living room, and before your foot even crosses the threshold, a hand shoots out demanding a mid-air slap. No hello, no small talk, just a non-negotiable high five as your ticket to entry. This isn't just enthusiasm gone rogue, it's a calculated ritual blending sport psychology, hyper-social conditioning, and the kind of unshakable optimism usually reserved for motivational posters. The origins of this rule often trace back to two competing philosophies: die-hard sports fans and parents who have read one too many positive parenting books. For the former, it starts innocently enough, a family bonding over game day traditions where high fives are as essential as nachos. Then it spirals. Suddenly, every room transition becomes a mini pep rally. complete with exaggerated wind-ups and dramatic whoops for added effect. One dad in Wisconsin turned his home into a literal high-five gauntlet, mounting a motion-activated scoreboard by the front door that tallied daily slaps. His logic: if we celebrate the little things, the big things take care of themselves. Then there's the parenting angle. Some households adopt mandatory high fives as a tactile feedback system, a way to reinforce presence and connection without nagging. Therapists note that physical rituals like this can anchor kids and adults to the present moment, cutting through digital distractions. One mom in Colorado credits the rule with curing her teens' zombie walk habit, where they'd shuffle past each other without eye contact. Now, even the family dog has learned to lift a paw for fist bumps, but the real magic happens when the rule takes on a life of its own. Imagine a sleepover where guests get a printed high-five itinerary listing mandatory slap points: kitchen entrance, bathroom exit, basement stairwell. Or the couple who replaced their wedding ring exchange with a synchronized high-five at the altar, then extended the tradition to every room in their house. The most extreme enforcers get creative with consequences. A family in Ohio charges a quarter per missed high-five, funding a yearly slap celebration trip to an amusement park. Of course, not everyone's on board. There's always that one visitor who freezes mid-entry, unsure if they've accidentally joined a cult, or the teenager who stages a silent protest by offering the most limp, dead fish high-five imaginable. But for households that swear by it, this rule isn't about forced cheer. It's about manufacturing moments of connection in a world that's increasingly hands-off. And hey, if you're going to demand interaction, you might as well make it sound like a celebration. Just try to keep a straight face when Grandma nails a perfect airborne clap on her way to grab the mail. Imagine sitting down to dinner and realizing your sentences just got 10 times harder because someone outlawed the most common letter in the English language. Welcome to households where no using the letter E after dark isn't just a quirky party game. It's a nightly linguistic boot camp that turns casual conversation into a mental obstacle course. This rule doesn't discriminate whether you're asking for ketchup or debating the meaning of life. Every word must be carefully vetted, lest you accidentally trigger the dreaded vowel violation. For some families, this started as a creative experiment. Take the writer Dad in Vermont who borrowed the concept from Gatsby, a real novel written entirely without the letter E. His goal: to sharpen his kids' vocabularies by forcing them to think outside the box, like substituting big for large or reworking entire sentences to avoid the forbidden letter. What began as a dinner table challenge soon morphed into a full-blown household law, complete with a penalty jar where offenders drop a quarter per slip-up. Another family in Oregon adopted the rule to curb screen time, arguing that texting without the letter E was so laborious their teens would rather talk face-to-face. But the real magic happens when the rule collides with everyday life. Picture a parent tucking in a child, only to pause mid-sentence. "I love you" suddenly becomes "you're my favorite small human," because love is now contraband. Or a couple's argument about unwashed dishes devolving into absurdity. "Why is that bowl still dirty?" transforms into "who forgot to wash that round dish?" The mental gymnastics spark creativity under pressure, like when one kid famously described a sunset as sky fire because orange was off limits. Then there's the psychological twist. Neuroscientists note that constraints like this can boost problem-solving skills by forcing the brain to reroute usual pathways. Families who stick with the rule report unexpected benefits: kids acing vocabulary tests, spouses bonding over shared frustration turned laughter, and everyone developing a newfound appreciation for obscure words like azure or quartz. One linguistics professor even documented her family's month-long experiment, finding that avoiding E didn't just expand their vocabularies, it made them more mindful listeners, as parsing vowel-starved sentences required intense focus. Of course, not all adaptations are graceful. There's the grandma who quit game night after 3 rounds, declaring it linguistic tyranny, or the teen who smuggled in forbidden E-words via Pig Latin. And let's not forget the household that temporarily renamed their dog Bud, formerly Rex, because explaining the change would have required the illegal letter. Whether it's a nerdy bonding exercise or a masochistic test of mental agility, this rule proves one thing: language isn't just a tool, it's a playground. And sometimes, banning the simplest things reveals how wildly inventive we can be when pushed to the brink of vowel-less desperation. Just try complaining about it without using the letter E. You'll find yourself at a loss for words in the most literal sense. Imagine a world where flicking a light switch after sunset isn't just discouraged, it's practically treason. Welcome to homes where 8 p.m. sharp marks the ruthless extinction of all artificial light, plunging rooms into a flickering sea of candle glow. This isn't just a whimsical nod to the pre-Edison era. It's a lifestyle choice straddling the line between romantic nostalgia and survivalist pragmatism. And behind this rule lies a fiery debate about modernity, mindfulness, and what happens when your Wi-Fi router becomes collateral damage in a war against wattage. For some families, the candlelight decree is straight out of a Jane Austen fantasy, a deliberate rejection of harsh LEDs in favor of honey-toned ambience. Picture a couple in Vermont who replaced their ceiling fixtures with wrought iron candelabras, justifying it as atmospheric self-care. Their nightly ritual involves hand-dipping beeswax tapers while debating whether 18th century novels were better. Spoiler: they've convinced themselves the answer is yes. Others frame it as an antidote to digital burnout, like the Silicon Valley engineer who banned screens after dark but kept candles. Firelight doesn't ping notifications, he argues. There's science backing this too. Studies show dim, warm light lowers cortisol levels, tricking the brain into pre-industrial tranquility. But then there's the doomsday contingent, the folks stockpiling olive oil lamps and soy candles like they're prepping for an impending grid collapse. For them, the 8 p.m. blackout isn't aesthetic, it's a drill. One Idaho survivalist family runs monthly power outage simulations where kids must recite Morse code by candle flame or forfeit dessert. Their motto: the apocalypse won't wait for your phone to charge. Even mainstream preppers have adopted the rule, treating it as training for hypothetical blackouts, whether caused by solar storms or zombie uprisings. The rule's unintended consequences, though, are where things get spicy. Teenagers texting under blankets like wartime operatives, misjudged candle placements leading to lightly singed shower curtains. That one guest who always forgets and flips the hallway switch, triggering a household meltdown louder than the non-existent bulbs. And let's not forget the cats, creatures of chaos who see flickering flames not as a lighting choice but as a personal challenge. Yet for all its quirks, the candlelight rule reveals a deeper yearning to carve out pockets of slowness in a world hell-bent on speed. Whether it's a bid for romance, resilience, or just an excuse to buy more fancy matchboxes, this ritual proves that sometimes progress looks like stepping backward, preferably into a circle of softly glowing wax, where the only bright idea is unplugging altogether. Every household has that one chair, the off-limits, sacrosanct seat that might as well have a velvet rope around it. Whether it's the recliner with the perfect TV sightline or the worn-out armchair that's molded to a single pair of hips, Dad's chair isn't just furniture. It's a territorial claim staked in microfiber and lever-operated footrests. The rule might seem arbitrary after all, it's just a chair, but challenge it and you'll quickly learn it's the linchpin of household hierarchy. Some thrones are earned through sheer seniority. Picture the grandfather's wingback, its cushions permanently indented from decades of crossword puzzles and baseball games, where sitting without permission is considered a betrayal on par with skipping family Thanksgiving. Other chairs gain status through utility. The home office captain's chair that swivels just right for Zoom calls, or the garage stool positioned exactly where the Wi-Fi signal peaks. But the most infamous is the dad chair, a zone of control so absolute even the family dog knows better than to trespass. One Minnesota family's golden retriever famously curled up next to the forbidden recliner for 12 years, never once attempting to occupy it, proof that some boundaries transcend species. The psychology behind this rule is surprisingly primal. Researchers studying personal space note that humans, and even some animals, mark ownership of spots that offer security or advantage. That chair isn't just comfortable, it's a command center. From its vantage point, Dad can see the fridge, the front door, and the TV remote simultaneously, a trifecta of domestic oversight. Violate the chair, and you're not just breaking a rule, you're destabilizing the ecosystem. One teen in Texas likened sitting in her father's La-Z-Boy to accidentally wearing his wedding ring, an unintentional power grab that sparked a silent treatment lasting 3 days. Then there's the folklore factor. Certain chairs become legendary through sheer lore, like the mid-century rocker that survived the move from the old house, or the duct-taped recliner that Mom swears she'll replace someday. These backstories turn objects into heirlooms wrapped in unspoken rules. A Chicago family's Papa chair came with its own origin myth. It was reportedly salvaged from a fire, making it the one thing we all agree is sacred. Never mind that the fire turned out to be a minor grill mishap in 1998. Of course, enforcement methods vary. Some households rely on passive-aggressive sticky notes, this seat reserved for OG Dad. Others deploy psychological warfare, like the mom who accidentally spilled coffee on the chair whenever her kid sat there, claiming it was cursed for non-original occupants. The most extreme case, a man in Florida installed a motion-activated voice recorder that played his own baritone, a hum, whenever someone lowered into his spot, a DIY scare tactic that worked until the grandkids reprogrammed it to fart instead. But here's the twist, the chair isn't really about sitting. It's about sovereignty, whether it's a threadbare relic or a high-tech gaming throne, claiming that space is a silent declaration of, this is where I recharge, where I'm off duty, where I'm me, not just parent, partner, or provider. So next time you see an empty chair radiating invisible, keep-out energy, remember, it's not furniture. It's a kingdom in cloth and stuffing, and the crown's already taken. In the Anderson household, you won't hear Mom, Dad, or even, hey you are just a brisk Agent 7, report to the kitchen or a deadpan. Number 4, your socks are violating dress code. This isn't a military academy or a sci-fi dystopia. It's a family that's taken the no names, only numbers rule to heart, turning everyday life into what sounds like a cross between a spy thriller and a bizarre census experiment. Some families adopt this rule as an elaborate game, a way to inject mystery into mundane routines. Picture kids giggling as they refer to their little sister as 0012 during playtime, or parents leaving mission briefings chore lists on the fridge signed HQ Command. One tech-savvy dad in Oregon even programmed Alexa to only respond to numerical ID, so Alexa, play music, gets ignored unless you bark. 01 audio protocol. The creativity doesn't stop there. A Missouri family's Christmas cards featured mugshot-style photos with each member's number plastered beneath their face, captioned, "Wanted for excessive holiday cheer." But then there's the disciplinary angle. For certain households, numbers aren't playful, they're punitive. A notorious Reddit thread exposed a mom who assigned her kids digits based on behavior rankings, with number 1 getting extra screen time while number 3 scrubbed toilets. Psychologists warn this can breed rivalry, but supporters argue it's no different than sports jerseys, just with higher stakes. One Utah family's performance review system went viral when their teenager's TikTok revealed how her promotion from number 4 to number 2 hinged on GPA improvements. The comment section erupted, split between "this is genius" and "this is a Black Mirror episode." The rule's unintended consequences, priceless. Imagine a teacher's confusion when a kid insists, "Call me 11." Or the chaos of a family reunion where grandma struggles to match faces to her grandkids' ever-changing digits. One dinner guest panicked when asked to pass the salt to Agent 5, only to realize the family cat had been promoted to that rank after mastering the pet flap. Whether it's whimsy or tough love, the no-names policy reveals something universal. Identity is fluid, and sometimes a little absurdity makes the ordinary extraordinary. Just don't be surprised if your next Playdate RSVP comes signed, Unit 6, attending with escort. Walking into the Carter household at breakfast feels less like a morning chat and more like an impromptu poetry slam. Pass the toast, host chirps the youngest while dad fires back. Only if you eat that egg, don't beg. This isn't just wordplay, it's law. Rule 29 decrees that every spoken sentence must rhyme, turning grocery lists into sonnets and sibling squabbles into rap battles. What begins as a whimsical game quickly reveals itself as a linguistic boot camp where "how was your day" gets rewritten as "did life sway you or stay blue?" And forgetting to rhyme lands you in the penalty box literally. One family's living room features a bard's bench where offenders must sit until they compose an apology couplet. The origins of this rule are as varied as the families who enforce it. Some trace it back to homeschooling parents using rhyme as stealth education, disguising grammar lessons as play, sneaking iambic pentameter into pancake breakfasts. One former English teacher turned mom blogs about her Shakespearean supper club, where dinner topics must adhere to a verse structure. The dog needs a walk becomes the pup must stroll or he'll dig a hole. Others admit it started as a desperate lockdown-era distraction, a way to make mundane chatter feel like a game show. A dad in Austin confessed his initial goal was just to get the kids to stop yelling about Minecraft, only to accidentally spawn a family-wide obsession. By week 3, even the cat had a rhyming nickname, Sir Purrs a lot atop his spot, but the real magic happens when the rule collides with real life. Imagine a teenager's mortification when explaining a failed math test in verse. The numbers lied, my grade has died, or a parent's creative cursing after stubbing a toe. This wretched door I'll fix no more. The constraint breeds unexpected creativity, like the family who rewrote their Wi-Fi password as a haiku, or the couple who resolved an argument about laundry through competitive limericks. Therapists note the unintentional benefits. Forcing thoughts into rhyme slows communication, reducing reactive outbursts. As one counselor puts it, it's hard to scream "I hate you" when it needs to rhyme with plate stew. Of course, enforcement has its quirks. Some households allow near rhymes for emergencies. Fine, orange can pair with door hinge this once, while purists demand perfect meter. One strict dad's rhyme court charges a dime per infraction, funding a yearly, epic poetry night where the family performs original sagas about the dog's misadventures. The most extreme case, a mom in Vermont installed a voice-activated light that only turns on if your sentence scans correctly. Her kids now mutter couplets to navigate midnight snack runs. Whether it's art, education, or just delightful chaos, this rule proves language is never just functional, it's a playground. And when every conversation must sing, even "take out the trash" becomes a chance to create something memorable. Just pray you never have to explain a plumbing emergency in iambic pentameter. House Rule 30 declares war on left turns, transforming hallways into mazes where moving clockwise is a punishable offense. This isn't just quirky, it's a full-scale rebellion against natural movement, as if the home's architect had a grudge against counterclockwise rotation. Some families swear it prevents collisions in tight spaces, like a domesticated version of traffic engineering. Others cite feng shui principles, claiming left turns disrupt energy flow. though skeptics argue it's just an excuse for parents to mess with their kids. The origins of this rule often trace back to chaotic households where siblings playing tag would barrel around corners like bumper cars. One dad in Ohio implemented it after his twins collided so often, he started calling their hallway the demolition derby zone. His solution, mandate right turns only, turning their home into a real-life roundabout. The result, fewer crashes, but also an unintended side effect. Kids began circumnavigating the entire house just to reach the bathroom, logging extra steps like unwitting fitness enthusiasts. Then there's the spiritual angle. Feng Shui purists believe left turns scatter Kai, the life force that supposedly flows through spaces. One California family rearranged their furniture to enforce a strict right-hand path, insisting it cured their chronic sleeplessness. Their skeptic neighbor joked they'd just exhausted themselves walking in circles, but the family doubled down, even labeling their hallways with arrows like some kind of home improvement IKEA manual. The rule's absurdity peaks when guests enter the fray. Imagine visiting your in-laws and being scolded for pivoting left to grab a napkin. No, loop around the dining table first. Or the college roommate who posted a flowchart by the fridge titled "Legal Routes to the Microwave." Enforcement gets creative too. Fines in the form of extra chores, or the ultimate power move, making offenders rewalk the correct path as everyone watches in silence. Of course, science offers no evidence that left turns invite bad luck or wasted energy. If anything, forcing unnatural movement patterns might increase stubbed toes as people overthink basic navigation. But psychology reveals something deeper. The human brain craves order, even imaginary order. By dictating something as arbitrary as turning direction, these households create a shared ritual, a private language of inside jokes and eye rolls. Rebels adapt in glorious ways. Teens develop left-turn stealth mode, waiting for parents to leave the room before executing forbidden pivots. One clever kid even coded a smart home system that played an alarm sound whenever someone turned left, turning rebellion into a high-stakes game of operation. Whether it's faux feng shui or familial crowd control, this rule proves homes aren't just spaces, they're stories, and sometimes the silliest chapters are the ones everyone remembers. Just don't expect guests to take the scenic route to the bathroom without laughing. Some families don't just embrace quiet, they enforce it with the precision of a library during finals week. Enter silent Sundays, where spoken words are replaced by scribbled notes, exaggerated gestures, and the occasional interpretive dance to ask who used the last of the milk. What begins as a quaint day of rest often spirals into a hilarious experiment in human communication, revealing just how much noise we tolerate and how creative we get when forced to go mute. For some, this rule springs from tradition. Certain religious households observe days of silence as spiritual practice, treating vocal restraint like a form of meditation. One Amish-adjacent family in Pennsylvania spends Sundays communicating solely through a 19th-century-style chalkboard in the kitchen, where messages like "firewood low" and "Aunt Carol's pie needs reheating" appear in ornate cursive. Others borrow from monastic customs, using the day to reset from digital overload, like the Seattle couple who banned speech and screens every Sunday, replacing tweets with handwritten letters they slip under each other's doors. But then there are the introvert sanctuaries where Silent Sunday isn't sacred, it's survival. Imagine a home where 3 kids, 2 parents, and a howling husky coexist in a tiny apartment. By Saturday night, the collective noise has reached rock concert decibels, leaving Sunday as a mandated vocal ceasefire. These families don't just whisper, they develop elaborate workarounds. One mom in Florida devised a flag system. A red handkerchief on the fridge means "I'm grumpy, don't bother me," while a green one signals "Yes, I'll share my coffee." Another household's kids invented a sign language hybrid they call home assle, where miming a vacuum cleaner means "clean your room," and holding up 2 fingers means I'm pretending to listen. The unintended consequences, priceless. Picture a teen frantically waving a notebook because she can't yell that her hair straightener is on fire. Or the dad who accidentally wrote "I love you" on a grocery list and spent the afternoon blushing as his wife framed it. Even pets get roped in. One family's beagle learned to tap a bell for outside, only to abuse the system by demanding 17 walks per hour. Yet beneath the comedy lies a deeper truth: silence forces presence. Without chatter, families notice subtler cues: a sibling's slumped shoulders that scream "bad day," or the way dad hums when he's content. Therapists note that structured silence can heighten emotional attunement, making nonverbals louder than words. And in a world where everyone's talking but nobody feels heard, sometimes the quietest days speak the loudest. Enforcement ranges from gentle to fanatical. Some homes allow emergency exceptions, the toilets overflowing, or designate a silence referee who arbitrates disputes via whiteboard. Others go full boot camp, like the dad who installed a decibel meter that dispenses candy if the house stays below 30 dB. The most extreme case, a TikTok famous family whose silent Sunday challenges involved tasks like baking a cake without uttering a word, resulting in frosting flinging charades that somehow still taste delicious. Whether spiritual, practical, or just delightfully weird, this rule proves communication isn't just about words, it's about intention, and occasionally, it's about seeing how long you can keep a straight face when your kid pantomimes, "I accidentally dyed the cat." Of all the bizarre house rules lurking in American homes, none straddles the line between paranoid and playful quite like mandatory alien invasion drills. Picture this: every third Saturday at noon sharp, the Johnson family drops whatever they're doing to rehearse their interstellar emergency protocol. Mom dons a tinfoil hat salvaged from last year's Halloween costume. Dad barricades the pantry with couch cushions, declaring it the anti-probe stronghold. The kids scramble to hide all electronic devices in the microwave because everyone knows that's the only way to block extraterrestrial mind-reading waves. What looks like a scene from a low-budget sci-fi movie is actually just another Saturday in households where preparedness isn't limited to fires and earthquakes. For some families, these drills stem from genuine conspiracy theories. There's the Nevada family whose binder labeled Disclosure Protocol includes notarized letters to the Pentagon and a step-by-step guide for neutralizing implant trackers using magnets and lemon juice. Or the retired aerospace engineer in New Mexico who turned his basement into a Faraday cage panic room, complete with a 2-year supply of freeze-dried tacos because if aliens attack, he refuses to die without decent Mexican food. These households treat the possibility of first contact with the solemnity of a military operation, drilling their kids on hand signals for hostile orb sighting, and maintaining a go bag stocked with iodine tablets and Billy Meyer's UFO diaries. But for most, alien drills are less about fear and more about absurdist bonding. Imagine a Chicago family's Alien Awareness Month, where they binge-watch The X-Files while practicing their anti-abduction formations, a carefully choreographed routine where they link arms and shuffle backward toward a salt circle. Or the Portland couple who turned their drills into a drinking game. Every time a neighbor catches them staging an escape pod evacuation in their Prius, they take a shot. The creativity reaches new heights with themed drills. Roswell Roundup, nights with glow-in-the-dark body paint, or Area 51 sleepovers, where kids camp in the backyard with walkie-talkies tuned to static, convinced they'll intercept alien frequencies. The psychological payoff is unexpectedly profound. Therapists note that shared pretend scenarios, even outlandish ones, can strengthen family cohesion through collaborative problem solving. When a teenager rolling his eyes at another stupid drill suddenly gets invested in optimizing the laser evasion crawl, he's not just humoring dad, he's practicing adaptability under imaginary pressure. One Minnesota mom credits the drills with improving her kids' critical thinking after her daughter reasoned, "If aliens have anti-gravity, why would they care about our Wi-Fi?" A logic loophole that sparked a full family debate on interstellar motives. Of course, the line between fun and fanaticism blurs fast. There's the uncle who spends drill nights scanning the sky with a modified baby monitor, convinced it picks up cloaked UFOs. Or the HOA that nearly expelled a Florida family for constructing a backyard landing pad out of Christmas lights and pie tins. The most extreme cases spill into public spectacle, like the Arizona man who alerted his neighborhood watch to suspicious atmospheric shimmering during a routine drill only for the police to discover he'd been training his new Ring doorbell to detect interdimensional ripples. Yet beneath the tinfoil and theatrics lies a universal truth. Humans crave rituals to make the unimaginable feel manageable. Whether it's earthquake drills in California or tornado rehearsals in Kansas, preparing for disaster is ingrained in our DNA. Alien invasion drills just swap the mundane for the magical, turning existential dread into a game where the stakes are fiction but the teamwork is real. So the next time you hear your neighbors shouting "Code Gray" while duct taping the windows, don't judge, join in. After all, if the cosmos ever does come knocking, you'll want the family who's perfected the art of paranoid playtime on your side. From outlawing red drinks to mandatory alien invasion drills, America's strangest house rules prove one thing: there's no such thing as a normal household. Whether it's a grandma who fines you for sneezing too loudly or a dad who treats his recliner like a throne, these 32 bizarre laws reveal the wonderfully peculiar ways families carve out their own versions of order. Some rules are born from tradition, others from sheer chaos, but every single one tells a story about the people who enforce them. Think about what these quirks say about us. A ban on left turns in hallways isn't just about avoiding collisions. It's about creating rhythm in the daily grind. Mandatory rhyming at dinner tables transforms small talk into poetry. And that "no flushing after midnight" rule, it's a relic of plumbing history masquerading as ghost prevention. Even the silliest regulations, like penalizing unapproved high fives or forcing pets into turtlenecks, reflect something deeper: the human need to assert control in a world that often feels unpredictable. But here's the real magic: every one of these rules invites conversation. Maybe you're nodding along because your family had a "no walking on the hardwood floors after 9 p.m. policy, or you're gasping at the idea of a confessional jar for fart taxes. That's the beauty of it. American homes aren't just buildings, they're living experiments in coexistence where someone, somewhere, decided the best way to keep the peace was to mandate candlelit dinners or outlaw the letter E after dark. So now it's your turn. What's the weirdest rule you've ever encountered? Is there a household out there where socks must be worn inside out on Tuesdays, or where breakfast cereal can only be eaten in alphabetical order? Drop your stories in the comments, because if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that the strangest rules often make the best memories, and who knows? Your family's quirk might just inspire someone else's next great household law. After all, normal is overrated, but a good story about why grandma banned stair skipping, that's priceless.